Hi ladies, I'm so excited to show you how to apply your Jamberry nail wraps tonight. So first of all, I want to show you what you'll need. The great thing is you probably already have everything in your house. Now first is a source of heat. Now your hairdryer will work. I happen to have Jamberry's mini heater, which is a wonderful little device that is nice and quiet and hands-free. Highly recommend it. Best $19 I ever spent. You also need some scissors. I have here some little cuticle scissors that come in the Jamberry kit, but any scissors will work. A cuticle pusher. Again, I have the Jamberry version, but any version will work. Some fingernail clippers and or a nail file, and I'll show you why either one will work later. Now some optional things to have. Orange sticks, and I'll show you how to use those. A buffer block. A plastic baggie. This is optional, but I highly recommend it. Again, I'll show you why. Some form of nail cleaner. Now, I have the Jamberry Nail Prep cleanser here, but you can also just use rubbing alcohol or just wash your hands with a non-moisturizing soap. And finally, last but certainly not least, you need some wraps. Now, if you're like me, this might be the hardest part of the whole application process. Is choosing your wraps. These are just some of the wraps that I have. Do you see how thick that stack is? So you'll need some wraps and you'll have to choose which ones you'd like to apply. So that is all you need to get started. So go gather your supplies and meet back here at the next segment of the video to learn how to apply them. All right, now that we have established that we have everything we need, our first step is to push back our cuticles. So I'm going to be applying to this hand first. I am right-handed, and it's highly recommended that you apply with your non-dominant hand first. So I will be applying to my right hand first using my left hand in order to get the hardest part out of the way. All right, now once I've made sure that my cuticles are nice and pushed back and out of the way, and you want to be sure that you do a good job of that because wraps will not adhere to cuticle or skin. So you need to make sure that those are pushed back, like so. I now take my cotton ball dipped in my nail prep, or for you maybe in your rubbing alcohol, and wipe that nail down nice and good and make sure that it's dry. Again, it won't adhere if it's wet. Then we're going to take our wraps, and the first thing I do is cut them in half. So this is a half sheet that you see right here. And then I always cut the biggest two off because these are intended for pedicures. They're really too big for most fingers. And then I just take the wraps, and the backing is clear as you can see, and so I just lay it over my nail and kind of check to see that there's just a little space left on each side so that again it doesn't touch the skin or the cuticle. And when I find a wrap that's the right size, then I cut it out. So this third wrap is the right size for my thumbs. So I've already got one cut out. Then I cut it in half because each wrap does 2 nails, which is great. Now for my thumbs, as you can see, my thumbs are kind of square at the bottom. They're not as rounded as my other fingers are. So to allow for that, I just take my scissors and cut the rounded edge off of the bottom there. And I try not to take too much because I don't want to lose too much usable wrap, and then I do lay it on my nail just to make sure that I've cut enough off that it will fit, that it will lay on there the way I want. All right, perfect. Now we take our orange stick, or you could use tweezers, or you could even use the back end of your cuticle pusher. And I just press on the backing and get between the backing and the wrap. Now what we're going to do here is called the cold application method. I do this because I tend to need to readjust the positioning of the wrap. I don't usually get it right exactly the first time, and so this is a little easier to reposition those wraps as needed. So I have my wrap off of my backing. Now standard instructions then tell you to heat it. In cold application we don't. So I just take this and I apply it to my thumb And I try to get it the first time because it's obviously better not to have to reposition it. But cold application will allow you to. All right, so I've got it sitting on my thumb. Now I've not pressed it down yet. Okay, you can see that it is still just sitting on the center. So this gives me a chance to kind of look and see if it's where I want it. Now I think this one will work where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and press it down. Now I press up the center and then around the sides, right? And I press down really well because I want it to adhere, and pressure is one of the keys to getting your wraps to adhere. All right, so now you have seen the cold application method and the square thumb method. All right. Next, we're going to look at it's called the baseball method, or the version that I use, I call the butterfly method. So I'm going to take one for my pinky because my pinky is a very curved nail. You can see that it's a semicircle there, whereas my thumb my thumbs are more flat. So you can see the difference here in the nail shape. So just like if you're trying to apply a flat sticker to a baseball, it doesn't work very well, which means that we need to allow for that curvature. We do that by using what I call, on my method, the butterfly method. So all I do is I've got my wrap all prepped here, cut in half, ready to go. And I just cut a small slit, and you can see the rounded edge here. I cut one small slit here, and then one just a little bit further up. And then I do the exact same on the other side in approximately the same place. All right, and then we just do our cold application again. So we'll pull this off of the backing very carefully. Now you don't want to touch the backing with your fingers, only with the orange stick or tweezers or whatever it is that you're using, because you don't want the oils from your skin to get on the back of the wrap, otherwise it won't adhere. And again, remember, I didn't say it, but remember, you're pushing back your cuticles and you are prepping with rubbing alcohol, or I'm using Jamberry's nail prep, and then make sure it's nice and dry before you try to apply that wrap. So now the reason that you wipe it with rubbing alcohol or some nail prep is to get the oils off and to clear it of any debris. So for instance, if you have just a little glitter left over on there from a glitter polish or something, this will help get rid of it. All right, so again, I've laid it on there cold, and you can see that it's not pressed down because I want to make sure that it's centered. This is a little off center. If it's off center, just put your orange stick back under the edge and very gently peel up. This has not been heated, so the adhesive is not activated, and so it is not as strong, and it should peel up pretty easily. All right, this looks better to me. So now I have cut these little wings, remember, in my wrap, and so I have to be very careful how I press it down. So I'm going to start at the very base and press straight up the center. Then I'm going to start at the base and press around and up to that first notch that I cut, that first slit that I cut, making sure that I don't accidentally press the wing down on my butterfly. Okay, so from the base up and around on both sides to that slit that I cut. All right, and then I press back up the center again, just make sure it's still there. Then I press from the top, right here in the center, around and down to the slit on each side, around and down to the slit on each side. Up to the center top, around the edge of my nail, and down. Again, make sure not to catch that wing in there. You want that wing to still be sticking out. All right, so you can see that I still got wings on the sides here. They're sticking up. Your very last step then is to press those down over the edges of the top and bottom of the wrap. All right. And that, my dear friends, is the butterfly method or the baseball method. The baseball method only uses one notch. And so if your nails aren't quite as curvy as mine are, you can get away with that. It just doesn't work for me because my nails, particularly my pinky nails, are so curvy. All right. The next thing that you want to do is trim off the excess as close to your nail as you can. So I'm going to do that, and then when we come back, I'll show you how to finish off your application. All right, so now I've got my wraps on and pressed down, and I've trimmed as close to my natural nail as I can with my little cuticle scissors. Now there are two ways you can do the next step. You can use a nail file. If you do so, you want to file at a 90-degree angle, okay? And what this will do is it will essentially break off the excess. And so the excess will slough off of your nail and it'll just leave a nice smooth edge. Now, if you either don't have the patience for this or you have nice long nails and so you don't really want to file them down too much, you can use nail clippers. Okay, so to do that, all you have to do, take your nail clippers, make sure that you do get a little bit of your nail with this. If you don't, then you won't be trimming quite enough for it to work. And just trim a thin little, or as much as you like really, trim a little off of your nail along with the wrap. Because this step is really just about making it flush with your nail so that you don't have any excess hanging off. Alright, so I've trimmed it. It's nice and even with my nail there. Okay, so I'll do the same with my pinky. And then we are ready for the final step in our application, which is the Baggie method. Now the Baggie method is something that is absolutely invaluable. I don't present it as an option so much as I present it as a you absolutely need to do this because it is the best trick known to man. So I'm going to take my little mini heater, and this is great because I just push this little button and it starts to go and you can barely hear it, right? Isn't that great? And it'll heat up nice and fast. I'm going to set it on my coffee table here. And then you take your baggie. And what you're going to do is place your finger in that baggie and pull it really tight. And then we're going to hold it in front of our heater for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds approximately. Unwrap. And then when you touch it, you should notice that it's all sealed down. When you look up the edge, you'll notice it's all nice and sealed down. And that's exactly what you want. This Baggie method helps to keep your wraps on longer, helps them to last longer, to seal better. And the best part, anytime your wraps start to lift, so let's say you've worn them for a week and they're starting to get a little ragged, just repeat the Baggie method to get them to reseal down. It's just that simple. So here we go. We have our 2 nails applied. I'm going to go do the rest right now while you get to work on that sample. Thanks, ladies. We'll see you next time.